Okay, so I'm changing out the radiator on my 1500 Ram 4.3 liter. Pretty much got everything out. The radiator is out. I just had to go pick it up. But I just wanted to make one point about this. The transmission lines, you know, I had a heck of a time thinking about how these went in there, but they're actually, the transmission lines were the hardest thing to get out. And I still had to heat them up. They're not threaded in at all with what you might consider to be a compression fitting. It looks like a compression sleeve on here, but they just press right into the radiator. And so I had to heat them up a little bit to get them to release. And both of them are the same way. This is the upper, and you can see the compression on there, and it's covered by this little O-ring or whatever this is, and it just kind of protects it. So I'll show you that when I go to reassemble that, but that was probably the trickiest part of this whole thing. Getting the shroud out, that was pretty easy. Just had to get all my lines out of the way and kind of angle it out of there. So, but yeah, you can see that there's fluid down there. This wasn't leaking on the ground at all. I couldn't find anything wrong with it, other than when I did a pressure test, I hooked up my Mitty vac to the pressure side of the the radiator cap here, and I pumped it up to, I could only get about 5 pounds of pressure in it, and I was supposed to get 15, but could only get 5, and then I started seeing a leak come out of here, you know, just kind of spraying very, very gently out of the radiator, and I never noticed anything on the ground. Driving it for a long time, I was thinking maybe it was the intake manifold gasket problem that everybody says they have on these things, but luckily it's just the radiator, so I'm going to put that back together, and we'll go from there. So let's go take a look at our new. Okay, this is the new radiator. Just wanted to kind of unpackage it, make sure that it matches the old one. Okay, so we turn it around. Okay, so here's my cap. Looks very similar. We got the drain. Let's take a look here. This is, you can see where the leak was, about up here, and it looked pretty bad. It was just kind of spraying out of there, just ever so slightly. Yeah. So I'll just kind of compare them side by side. And yeah, they look identical to me. Got the same fitting here for the lower hose and the upper, and of course the cap. So this is the direct replacement. I got this at AutoZone for about 270 bucks, give or take. So anyway, it looks like the ticket. We got some hose clamps here, and all the fittings are covered. So all right, well, I'm going to take the moment to get it into the van, just set it in there, maybe connect the hoses up. We'll see what I got. Shouldn't take me about a half an hour to do this. Okay, stay tuned. Yep, I double checked. This is not the right radiator, so now I gotta go find a new one, and I've got to get this fixed to get to work tomorrow. I doubt that's gonna happen. I guess I'll have to get a ride. But anyway, you can see that there's 4 ports on this, and there's only 2 on this one. So unless I block those off and try to use this radiator, but I'm not going to do that. I need the right part. All right, well, off to the store we go. Okay, I'm finally back on my radiator. It's been a few days, but I've been trying to locate the proper radiator. Now, what I told you before is that I thought I had the right radiator, but I don't, or I didn't think I did, because you can see there's 2 additional ports here that this one does not have. And I was assuming that was incorrect, but this radiator actually is an upgrade, and because this is an older vehicle, I believe they use these ports for a oil cooler. So they told me at the dealership, at the GM dealer, that that's what that is, and that they had to do a little research to find that out. But anyway, the dealership wanted $325 for this radiator, so I went back to Napa, and I actually got I got the radiator from them for like $180. So it's the same identical radiator, and that Napa had to the dealer. So finally worked that out. So we're going with this one, and so stay tuned. We'll put it together. Okay, I'm just getting the radiator in position. They've got a couple of little mounts down there that you got to line it up to, and you can put I can put the hose back on, just like that. It's got a little clip, little E-clip that goes in there to hold that hose in place. The transmission lines, again, this is the upper. This is the upper one. This is the lower one. So they just snap in. So you got to move them into position, and they bite in. You just push them in, and then they grab. I think they just snapped in. So, oh, no, I guess it didn't. There it goes. There it goes. You had to force it in pretty hard. And that did it. And then this just goes over it to protect it. There's another one down here. Well, actually, before I put those on, I got to put the little C clips in. There's little C or E clips that go in here to lock these in place. So I'll get them. Okay, the shroud, you have to kind of angle it in there. Got to be careful not to puncture the radiator while doing this. Okay, so I got my bolts here. Make sure that's all lined up. I'll just put this in now loosely. Just kind of a couple turns. This one too. This is for the map sensor. This goes in here. I'll have to unhook that. Okay, that's pretty much where everything goes. Okay, maybe I can reach down in there, line it up somewhat. Okay, I had to pull the dipstick to really get this in here properly. Just so you know that, because you might end up breaking off the heads of the dipsticks. Also, too, I did get the bolts in. They're all in and tight. They're all M10s too. So very simple, M10s, no problem. This is where the map sensor goes. Just clip that down. Okay. Wiring harness on the top of the radiator here. That's all there is to that. Just clip it down. I can bring this down. I end up putting this air conditioning hose up on top here just to give me more room. and then we can move this hose back into position. This has just got a regular hose clamp on it. Probably it's been off before, so okay. Now just got to put the reservoir back on. This just slips in into these slots, just like that. Just tighten it down with the bolt, and I just got to get the air filter back on in its ductwork snorkel. Oop. Oop, gotta line that up properly. There we go. Okay. Now before I put the snorkel back on, well, I guess I'll get that in. Everything's tightened down, everything's in place. Just got to put the hoses back on where they go. This one actually gets attached here, and then to this, this actually goes here, and like that. Just got to put another hose clamp on it. I think that radiator came with a new hose clamp. So, and then this is just the overflow that comes through here and then drains down. I've got to put that on too, but all right, stay tuned. Okay, you can see the bolt down there, kind of way down in there for the snorkel, if you can focus on it. Right there. Okay, that was a little harder to get to than I thought, but it worked, and I got it on tight. Just a screwdriver, flat tip screwdriver, short one, got in there. Those are the air filter goes on this way. You can see the air filter in there. It's not that old, so I'm not going to replace it. It goes under the air conditioning tube, I believe. Oh, I should be zoomed out. Or I should be zoomed out, sorry. Okay. So anyway, there's a couple, what's going on here? Oh, there we go. There's a couple of little mounts here. This is supposed to go onto. They look like they're kind of worn out, but that's what these holes are for here. Push that back down. Sorry guys, it's very difficult to hold the camera and do this too, so there we go, she's in. Just got to put the bolts back in, connect my map sensor. I'm wondering, I remember that hose being in front of the I wonder if that was above it to begin with. Let me see if I can finagle that over it again, because I want that out of the way. Hold on. All right, right or wrong, that's where I'm putting it. So I want it out of the way of this thing so I can reach it. Looks okay. All right, I'll put my fluid in, I'll put my bolts in, only a couple bolts here, and I'll tighten them down. Get the antifreeze in it, and we'll try to start it up, see what it does. Okay, so the antifreeze is ready to go in. I'm just using a 50-50 mix. Not real picky about what I use. I got a little peak left, so I'm gonna use that. This is GM, well, it's all vehicles, so it's not actually specified for GM, I don't think, but for all makes and models. So And you got to be careful of that, because the glycols that they use in some of these things can be actually corrosive to your radiator and system. So got to make sure you do put the right stuff in, otherwise you could damage your system, your cooling system. So I'm going to fill this up, and then we'll start it up, see what happens. Okay, so the fluid is up, at least in the radiator. You can see where I've topped it off. I'm going to start the vehicle, maybe get it warmed up. See if we can burp this down. Check for leaks. Don't see any. At least not yet. But over here. Well, don't see any. I'll fill this up too. It's only 1 gallon, one and a quarter. So sure it'll need more. Just want to put some in it for now. Now this expands and it should go back in. This is supposed to be an overflow that goes to the street, but I believe this line now is supposed to come up, because my other radiator did not have this spigot on here, or this spout right here. So I'm thinking if that's overflow, it's just going to go right back into the radiator. But well, time will tell. Like I said, I'm not a mechanic, and I don't know. I mean, I've had this vehicle a couple years, and just getting familiar with it. But hey, the good news is, I think it's starting to actually expand. I kind of expected the thermostat to open up and then suck this fluid in. Well, I'm going to put the cap on it so I don't lose too much. It'll probably begin to pressurize. Let's see what happens. Okay. Well, anyway, the good news is, guys, I mean, it takes an M10. You can do this whole job with a ratchet and an M10. Pull all this stuff off, get your shroud off, pull your radiator out, change it out and put one in about half an hour. It doesn't take long. Don't be afraid to do it. It's not hard at all. You just got to disconnect a few things here. You know, your snorkel, your map sensor, move that stuff out of the way, move the hoses out of the way, and you're all set. Fortunately, this was not a problem with my intake manifold gasket, at least not sure yet, but I'm pretty sure that was my leak. I did a pressure test first, so always do a pressure test first. See where you can pinpoint the leak before you start replacing things. That's the moral of the story. It's probably, I know it cost me about $180 or almost $200 for the radiator, but I saved myself a ton of money doing it myself, and I think you can too. So don't be afraid to dig in, and because I know if I can do it, y'all can do it out there too. So well, you all have a good one, and thanks for watching. One last thing I just wanted to say is that you got to tighten these nuts down as well, because that kind of forms the crimp, or the compression fitting. So these nuts got to be socked down tight. and otherwise you will get a leak. So just to make sure you do that. Okay, and I actually tighten these down just in case too on this side. These are about 1 inch size, and for English 15/16 maybe on this side, but or actually 3/4. It's 3/4 on this side. So be sure you tighten those down to avoid any transmission leaks, and you should be good to go. Yeah, it's getting close. So usually it's just about just under 210, maybe like 200 or so, and it's almost there. So I'll keep an eye on the fluid level and make sure we got enough fluid in there. Looks pretty good so far, haven't lost any. But every couple days this thing is empty. That's what happened, and my radiator was leaking. So you can see the leak was right here. It was right in here. Just a pinhole. But boy, it was, you know, I'm so glad it wasn't the exhaust manifold gasket, because that would have been a whole lot bigger job. So all right, well, thanks for watching. Okay, lastly, I just wanted to point out the radiator did come with this plug. So instead of this hose, this is the overflow hose going here. I put that on there thinking, you know, it's got to go somewhere because all that fluid is just going to leak out. The radiator, Napa provided this the radiator with this plug. So make sure you put that on. That's the overflow, or that will overflow your radiator. And it's supposed to just cap it off, because my other radiator did not have this spigot on here. So that's why that's there. If yours was a newer model, it would probably utilize that for something else. So don't know, but anyway, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, like, share, and guys, see you next time. Thanks. So remember, guys, if I can do it, you can do it. So stay tuned for the next episode.